Wake up and inspire self-love because your life could depend on it. I can't even believe how lucky I am to get to be here with you. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Hit subscribe if you're new. Like the video anytime along if you find it to be helpful. 2 years ago could have been a disastrous moment, and really, let's be real, it kind of was disastrous. Okay, so 2 years ago yesterday, I was trapped in a lot of negative cycles. I had been in a relationship that was no longer serving me. I had given up. At this point, I can say I had given up myself, given up my life, given up who I was for a relationship that was toxic and painful to be in. We had been together for several years. It was a lot of ups and downs. I will share more of the stories of the ups and downs over the next while as I'm doing a toxic relationship series and why it's important to inspire self-love, especially if you see any of these things in your relationship. When I was facing the darkness that I was facing 2 years ago, I was lost. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was confused. I didn't know what to think of life anymore. I was asking all my friends, this happened today. What do you think about this? What would you do? Oh my gosh, can you believe that this happened to me? Like, oh my goodness, what do you think of this situation? It was just pure chaos in my mind. I literally felt insane. And I didn't understand why. At least I didn't at that time, right? So 2 years ago, I was at home with my family trying to be happy. It had already been a really rough year or so while, became a new mom. Things was difficult. The transition into motherhood, the transition into being a wife in a not healthy relationship, right? And so I was home tending to my family. My daughter went to sleep, and I was watching a football game with my partner at this time. I was having a fine time. Things were fine. I had a friend call me, and I was engrossed into this football game, so I did not really pay attention to my friend. I was kind of like, oh, yeah. You know how you do that? Like, you answer and you want to talk, but you're kind of distracted. So I was doing this with my friend, and I noticed that I was doing it and that I really wanted to watch the game, and she was talking about something. Like, I honestly can't even tell you what she was talking to me about anymore. It was something to do with somebody that I didn't even want to talk about. And so I was about to be like, oh, can I give you a call back later? I'm not really feeling like talking right now. I'm watching this video or watching this football game. Can I call you later? And so she prompted that because she could tell I was distracted right before I went to speak that to her. So what happened was I hung up the phone, told her we'd talk later, and at the immediate next thing that came out of my partner's mouth was, what? You can't talk shit about me, so that's why you had to hang up the phone? And it's like, whoa, what are you talking about, right? Like, out of nowhere, this anger went from like 0 to like, I'm angry at you. And so I was confused, tried to like understand where he was coming from, and he just started telling me like, oh, well, I know you're just talking crap behind my back, and that you blah blah blah, you don't even talk to me, you just talk crap about me. And at this point, like, it had been a long time coming. I had already asked him to move out prior to this event happening, and I told him, I need to be able to talk to someone that's willing to talk to me. Because it had been a long time coming. We had been having a long time issues, things that I had desired and expressed the need to talk about. And to like, hey, these are the things I'm suffering through about our relationship, like, work with me. We tried therapy, we tried counseling, we tried doing like workbooks and reading. Well, by tried, like, the intention was there, at least on my part, right? And so I was doing everything I could until this time, and I was so close to giving up. I was ready to give up and just throw the hands up in the air and my towel in and say, I'm done. So close. Well, this night happened. Let me continue to tell you about my night. So watching this game, ending the conversation with my friend, started getting verbally abused. You know, thankfully, my relationship was never much of a verbal abuse situation. I never, luckily, had always had enough self-love to not allow other people to consistently call me bad names like the bitch, the fu, the cunt. Like, that word doesn't even exist for me, and I'm totally gonna not say the words, but you get the gist, because like YouTube doesn't like that, right? So, but you get the gist, right? So having all of these horrible things spat at me in my face, I was literally like, well, if you believe all these horrible things about me, then why don't you leave? Leave. I told you a month ago, when you had resumed drinking, to please get out, that I was done and I couldn't do it anymore, and you'd refuse to move out. Well, that only escalated things even further, right? So then more verbal abuse, literally screaming at me. And, you know, we live in a basement apartment, nothing super crazy, beautiful, blessed to be here, so thankful for where I'm at. And, you know, things escalated, they started getting heated. I kept saying, well, leave. If you feel all those negative things about me that you are now screaming at me, why don't you leave? Like, this marriage obviously is not working. You're not happy. I'm not happy. Like, what are we doing, right? And so the anger escalated. He kind of got really angry, got up in my face and was screaming at me, and I'm shorter than he was, so he was like screaming at me. And I ended up backed up against a corner, like in a wall, like just a little over that way. There's like a little section like this. There's like a doorway here with the door, and the door was closed. And there is a doorway here, and the door was closed. Yeah, our door was closed because my daughter was in there sleeping. Our 9-month-old, no, our like 1.5-year-old daughter was sleeping during this time. And so I'm sitting here backed up against a wall because prior to that, he was yelling and cursing, got angry, got into another room, went into like our storage room, punched a hole in the wall, made artwork fall, glass fell down, and I was taking a picture of the glass in the wall and everything when he walked out the door. So he walked out the door, saw me taking a picture of the broken glass, and he rushed at me, and I was kind of like, so this is the doorway, right? And I was like kind of right here, not really backed up into the doorway, but like enough to where I could take a photo of what was happening at that time. So here I am, feeling unsafe, feeling unsure, feeling unworried. He comes out, I see his face go angry, in red anger, right? So he storms at me. I end up backed up against this corner, and he's yelling at me, and I'm just looking up at him and feeling his spit on my face while he's yelling profanities at me. And I could tell that his hands were clenched, like on the side of him. You probably can't see my hands, but you know, they were clenched on the side of him. And I remember looking at him and just being like trying to push him off of me and away from me. And I literally told him, like, if you hit me, I will call the police. You know, like dead serious. Like, I never once tolerated the idea of being hit by any partner or man or anything like that. Thankfully, I did always love myself enough. And I'm not trying to shame anybody, just so you know, if you're here and that's happened to you, there is help. I'm going to find the domestic violence number and put it in the captions. But, domestic violence hotline number. But I was there in a situation I never envisioned myself to be in. I never entered a relationship with the agreement of being verbally abused, of being emotionally abused, of being physically abused, of being, you know, having been at this time a victim of domestic violence, right? Like, I didn't deserve this. I literally was sitting on the couch watching a football game that he wanted to watch. Because, you know, I like football. This whole incident evening happened. He did back off after I told him, like, if you hit me, I will call the police. He just was like, backed up, walked away for a little while, got some breath, And I was just like, okay, like I'm okay. Can't really tell you exactly what happened in between there. Oh yes, I remember actually, it's back. So then I asked, are you gonna clean up the glass that's broken here on the floor? Because you know, our toddler child that's crawling and learning to walk is gonna wake up, and this is gonna be an unsafe and unfit territory for her to be crawling in and playing in. So he refused. He, of course, yelled at me some more profanities. And while I sat there and cleaned up the mess, I got yelled at more. Again, more verbal abuse, more emotional abuse, calling me rude things like, you're just this fat, blah, 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 you're so dumb, how could I ever have loved you? Why would I ever be with you? Like, you're just so stupid. Like, how could I ever believe that you were worth anything? Like, just all sorts of stuff. Like, I might even not even totally remember all the words that he said. All I know is that they sunk into my heart and my soul, because I had been trying for so long to keep this marriage afloat, to keep the relationship going and moving forward, even though it was really doomed at the beginning, which I didn't really see until after the separation happened. So that night was when my separation technically officially started. I thankfully was able to clean up all the glass. My child woke up, and you know, a little bit more inappropriate things happened. I was trying to feed my daughter dinner at the kitchen table. Some inappropriate sounds were coming from, you know, my partner at this time. And just like that, silence. So I don't know if I shared this part, this tidbit, is that my partner was an alcoholic at this time. Very much had issues with drinking and alcohol, and it had been an ongoing thing for our whole relationship. Like I said, it was doomed from the beginning. I willingly, unfortunately, didn't have enough high standards for myself and my partners and what I allowed in my life, that I willingly entered a relationship with an addict. Of course, addicts are not bad. If you're an addict, there's help. Please seek help. But I was like a successful woman growing up. Like, I was always going to be like pre-med. I wanted to help people. I was a CNA. I am a CNA still to this day. You know, I enjoy helping people. And that's where it happens, right? Where now I wanted to help him, raise him in whatever senses I wanted to raise him, like to help elevate his life, to be a wife, to experience the love and the joy that we had felt at the beginning, although it was very much a lustful, trauma type situation that happened. And we'll talk about that later, right? But after being in that situation of feeling unsafe, of feeling unloved, of feeling so unworthy, and to being in that situation, that really made me say, whoa, stop, Tanya. This is not right anymore. You have to get out. You have to do something. So he blacked out that night, just quickly like that. Like, not even 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m. in the evening, on an afternoon, on like a Sunday or something, after Thanksgiving. And what did I do? Well, I luckily lived, and still do live, in my mother's home, in her basement. I rent from her. Thanks, Mom, for letting me live here. Family discount. Whoop, whoop. Unity makes us stronger. Okay, anyway, so I text my mom. She was out of town at this time. I was like, Mom, we had a really big falling out. I'm sorry, but can I please stay in the guest room? Like, things are not good. I don't feel safe, and I'm not gonna go back downstairs until he's gone. So of course, my mom said yes. So here I am, lugging diapers, my underwear, my bras, my socks, and a few outfits of clothes for the next day, because I still had to go to work, you know, the next freaking day. And so I also took my tax documents, because, like, you never know. Sometimes you need stuff, and you never know when people get crazy. Like, I won't lie to you. I was definitely crazy at this time, right? So that was only 2 years ago, guys. Maybe I'm still a little bit crazy, but here we are on a journey to inspire self-love and love who we are, and here I am being vulnerable with you. So thank you for being here if you are. So I grabbed my stuff, went upstairs, and tried to just be calm, try to take care of my daughter, try to just like process what had happened. Obviously I knew at this time that things needed to be different. He needed to go. He needed to get out of my home, out of my mother's home, out of what was supposed to be our home. And that was it. I didn't say anything. I didn't talk to him or anything until about 11 p.m. at night when he woke up. And the first things that he sent me via messenger was F you, period. All caps. Maybe there's periods, maybe there's exclamation points. I don't know. But that was the beginning of a lot more of a verbal abusive situation of our relationship. The first time I really actually thought he would hit me, there had been one other incident that I should have recognized when it happened. But there was like a grabbing incident one evening when, he was pretty inebriated as well. And I had told him that night, like, if you ever grab me again or hold me, I will leave. And that had been during our dating phase. And it had not happened again until this night, 2 years ago. So here I am, crying, trying to sleep, being ready for the next day. Still went to work the next day, everything. Still found it difficult to be at work, but woman's gotta work, got bills to pay, how to take care of my daughter, how to still provide. And so end of the story is a couple days later, with over a couple days, I was able to have him leave my home. And did have to call, at the time, my father-in-law to help me talk some sense, like, I don't want to have to call the police to ask him to leave, but like, I'm asking nicely and I'm just getting verbally abused. So like, please help me so that we don't have to have the cops get involved. So that's what happened. He moved out December 1st, 2 years ago. And that started a rocky journey for the toxic relationship that had been. So I'm healing through this journey to inspire self-love. There are a lot of things that I haven't really gotten to speak to, and to express to this former partner, just because like it's not really something I can do. There's a lot more that's happened between that separation and now that I will share throughout my content, but this is the story I want to share tonight because it was just a little over 2 years ago that I went through this dark night with who I thought was going to be the love of my life, who I thought was the love of my life. Somebody that I really believed, like, I was going to create a family with him. We were going to grow old together. We were going to love each other and be a team. Although the truth is I hadn't been part of that team for a very long time. I could feel it. He didn't want me on his team. I was kind of like the enemy for a really big chunk of the time. But I felt that pain inside of me, but I was always too afraid to really truly be alone again and leave than to really listen to those gut-wrenching feelings of like, this isn't right. Like, why am I so sad all the time? Like, why am I crying? Like, sure, there was some good times there too, but you don't go from good times to breaking artwork, punching holes, being backed in a corner, and feeling unsafe emotionally, mentally, verbally, physically. Like, being unsafe should be a number one indicator that things are not the way they should be. So here's some tips for you if you've been through anything like this. 1, be aware that these dark moments that night wasn't necessarily like a really bad, super horrible case of domestic violence. But that doesn't really matter. This domestic violence is not a scale of like, oh, it was an acceptable amount of domestic violence to, oh my gosh, how dare he have hit her and beat her up and almost kill her. Like, no, it's all bad. Sure, this situation is worse, but it is still bad. And I'm here to proclaim that because that is my truth, and I want to spark that conversation and spark some life into any women that might feel like it's normal and that it's supposed to be normal, because it is not normal. And that awareness helps you to start to wake up, because like I said earlier, your life could depend on it. I'm thankful and I'm lucky that one night helped me wake up, helped me snap out of like this rose colored glasses of like things aren't right, but there's so much love that wasn't really there. You know what I mean? So, number two thing I want to remind you is you're not alone in going through a suffering like this. I never thought I'd be there too, which it's difficult to admit that that night happened. Like, that was definitely the biggest, one of the biggest nights. Like, no, that probably was like the second biggest night. Well, okay, it was the first biggest night. It was like the biggest, not the first, but like the biggest event, because that is literally the night that gave me enough courage to stop and to get out, to get away, to make space so I could breathe, because I felt like I was suffocating in this life that I just wanted to be perfect, and it was not anything close to perfect. People would ask how things were, and I would say, oh, they're fine. Oh, yeah, we're good. Oh, yeah, things are great. But really, it was living in my own personal hell. So, you're not alone. 3, I just want you to know, if this situation sounds familiar, if you're still there, trauma bonded relationships, which if you're suffering through any style of abuse, any type of abuse, it's like, what style, what kind of flavor do you want to pick today over that? I think I'll take a flavor of some emotional abuse today. Thank you. It's like the jelly beans from Harry Potter. Like, you hope you don't get the shit flavored jelly bean. Well, that's what this was like, right? Okay. Anyway, sorry, got a little emotional on you guys. So, to remember that it's difficult to leave. So like I said earlier, this is not about shaming you or anybody that's in this situation. And if you don't feel safe, please take that to heart. Let's look up the domestic violence numbers. Let's get those out there. It's important for you to get that help. And that is number 4. Your safety is important. You are a valuable human being, and you deserve to be loved, respected, treated with kindness, especially if you're somebody's woman, whether you're in a female, male, female, or whatever. I'm here for women, so men, if you're also here watching and you're in a domestic violence situation, it's not normal for you either, so please get out. Like, this is, like, it is hard to say that it could get better because we don't know, right? Like, I don't know if things could have gotten worse because I got out. But how many women aren't lucky enough to wake up and get out? How many women are found battered, lost, murdered because they didn't take the time to inspire self-love, to find their worth, to love themselves, to set healthy boundaries, to escape or end or get rid of, empower themselves out of a toxic relationship, out of a negative cycle? Well, because safety matters, I want you to remember that the police are there to help, right? Like, you should always try to document anything that goes wrong, where things could be bad, like broken glass, broken items in the home, passing out, if you happen to be getting hit, any bruises or hitting, anything like that. Please document that stuff, because it could help you if you ever have to go to court, if you ever want to seek justice for your situation. Because I'm on a journey to inspire self-love, this is the beginning, the real beginning of my toxic relationship series, where I'm going to go in and explain things that I didn't see as being toxic during the time that I was in these situationships. I'm not going to disclose names, right? You know, trying to keep anonymity with that. I think that's how I say that word. Because I believe I'm healing and I want to love these people that have been part of my life. But for me to really be able to let it go, I have to speak my truth against the things that I wish I had known when I was going through them. When I was up at night wondering, is this really love? Should I be here? Why can't I leave? Why don't I feel happy in my marriage? Why don't I feel happy in this relationship? What's wrong? Why is he not present? All those things that I wanted to know back then, I'm hoping I can bring now here to you. And just to express it, to release it, and to let it go. 2 years ago, I found myself in a domestic violence situation. I never thought that would be the case. It was. I don't have shame in this, even though it's really scary to talk about it, because this is going to be public online information, and I didn't really talk to a whole lot of people about this situation. And some of the people, since we're on toxic relationships, some of the people didn't even have my back. Some of the people in my life sided with him. Some of the people wanted me being abused so that I was staying down, so that my light was being dimmed, so that my soul and my essence was being broken down. Some of the people in my life were just as toxic as this domestic life event with this partner I had. Those people I've been working on removing from my life, and some of them I don't talk to anymore because I have taken time to inspire self-love, and I would rather be alone by myself talking to you, working on my mission to inspire self-love by breaking out of old negative cycles so that I can live my most joyful and authentic life. So stay tuned for more toxic relationship series, descriptions, advice, expression. This is me healing. I know it's kind of weird. I know I don't, whatever. I am Tanya. I am the only one. Welcome. Please subscribe. And the last thing I want to share with you is I'm going to be hosting a 3-day Inspire Self-Love Challenge. If you resonated with my story, if you have been in those dark days, maybe you're not in those dark days, but maybe you're working your way out of them. I'm here 2 years later from that domestic violence night. 2 years later, and I have to speak my truth so I can let it go and heal. It's a journey. You don't go from being in a traumatized relationship, trauma bonding, toxic behaviors. You build up PTSD because you had trauma. You build up trauma that you have to learn how to let go. So I'm here on a mission, like I said. So I hope you will follow along and subscribe. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, you matter, and I'll see you guys next time.